So I am Catherine Hernan Powell. I work for Appalachian Trail Conservancy here in our Virginia regional office in Roanoke. I'm actually in the office today. I'm normally working from home. And I will be moderating, just shifting between speakers and everything like that. My colleague Chloe DeCamera is also here, and she's going to be moderating all the tech stuff. So she's the master of Zoom today. She'll be sharing her screen for the presentation soon and can help with any kind of Zoom issues we have. Chloe is our education specialist based in the Asheville office, so she gets to work with AT communities in Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. And then we also have Julie Judkins on the line. Julie is the Director of Education and Outreach for the whole Appalachian Trail on a trail-wide level. So she's kind of the mastermind behind our wonderful AT community program. And then we'll introduce each of the speakers as they get going. So just a tiny bit of background. We, as most of you I'm sure know, had to make some very sad choices this spring to ask hikers to stay away from the trail for a period of time, and also ask long distance hikers to postpone their hikes. And that was really sad for a number of reasons, but one of the things we were most sad about was that we knew this pandemic was going to have a huge impact on our AT communities. And so we've had we did a survey back in April and May in which we had ridge runners and other staff calling service providers, shuttle drivers, hostel owners, all outfitter owners, all sorts of contacts that we had in AT communities up and down the trail to try to gauge that impact and see how we could help. One of the, as we were doing that, we found that the COVID-19 pandemic was having, major impact in these communities, but we also started to hear some really great stories of ways that businesses and communities were adapting, really pivoting quickly to, meet the needs that were coming up, as well as, finding ways to stay solvent. So we thought we'd try to collect a few of those stories and share them with you, and just hopefully spark some idea and inspiration sharing among communities. So without further ado, we will go ahead and launch into that. We're going to go northbound. So we're starting in Northeast Tennessee with Kayla Carter. She is the Outdoor Development Manager with Northeast Tennessee Regional Economic Partnership. And I'll let you take it away, Kayla.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so there's a nice little photo of me on my thru hike in 2014. My fiance is cropped out, so but we thru hiked together. I came back home after my thru hike, became a trail maintainer, and I'm so lucky that I get to do what I do, working in outdoor development where I grew up. Trying to encourage investments in the outdoor recreation economy and industry in our area. So that's a good overview of what I do. We're a regional economic development organization. And next slide, please. So this is the area of service that we have for our outdoor development program. We have 8 counties that we serve. The counties that have the Appalachian Trail running through them, we've got a little bit in Sullivan County, Johnson County, Carter, Unicoi, and Greene County. So right along the state line there is where the trail comes through our area. And we're super blessed to have it here. Next slide, please. And so this is an overview of the outdoor development program that I was gifted in 2016. I kind of hit the ground running with a festival called Meet the Mountains. And that was really inspired by some of the things that were already happening in our AT communities of Roan Mountain and Unicoi County. They have festivals of their own. So Unicoi County has a great outdoor festival, and then Roan Mountain has Hiker Palooza. And so this year we had planned to do something really awesome with our festivals that happened. We were going to have, contiguous events. We would have our Irwin Festival first, and then Roan Mountain would have had theirs, and we would have been following that hiker bubble and leading them with hospitality all the way into Damascus. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have those mass gatherings. And here in a couple weeks, we would be in the throes of planning our Meet the Mountains Festival as well. But we decided to pivot those events and create an opportunity to engage with folks that wanted to still be a part of celebrating the AT in our community. So we supported our Roan Mountain and Unicoi County AT communities by putting together a webinar series, and you'll see that logo on your screen down in the bottom right-hand corner. So it's the little diamond-shaped logo. So the program was called "We Are the AT," the at-home hiking series, and so we really, really enjoyed that process of getting to network with those leaders that love the trail. And we partner with Damascus as well across state lines. So that was a lot of fun. We had folks involved to share their stories from business perspective, from, just living in the community and loving having the trail there. So it was still a way that we could engage people in celebrating the trail in our little corner of the state. I hope that we can continue doing things like that. One of the things that other things we had done was start a podcast a couple years ago. So you'll see that on the screen as well. It's the Appalachian Trail Tennessee podcast. We're always trying to come up with ways that we can create evergreen content that can be out there, just continuing to tell our story and how the Appalachian Trail is a big part of our story here in the region. And one of the other things that we've been doing to pivot around the pandemic is just doubling down on our strategic planning efforts and engaging with we did a series of public engagement meetings prior to the pandemic. And so we've really been able to sift and dig through and synthesize a lot of that data during this time and give it the full attention that it deserves as some of our other priorities have shifted. And so what we've really come to understand is just that our program really rests on the shoulders of those that came before us and all of the work that they've been doing within that community that we serve now. Next slide, please. So this is kind of this is the cover of our future strategic planning document that we are developing right now. And we really enjoyed digging in and finding love the outdoors and what that means for our economy. And we are really looking forward to creating a sustainable roadmap for that. That includes stewardship, infrastructure, education, and of course, how all those things play into our economy. And next slide, please. So I'm really proud to share with you guys a program that our CEO has kind of led. He got a lot of folks in our region rallied behind this Region Ahead concept, and that stands for Appalachian Highlands Economic Aid Directory. And we got the community to fundraise on behalf of those businesses that were struggling during this time. And so this really was an internal campaign to support our local businesses. And so you'll see in this slide here, Bob's Dairyland is a staple in Roan Mountain. And they were really struggling during this time. And so we were able to award them a couple $1,000 to hopefully keep them afloat during this time. And the same goes for the station at 19E. So you'll see that on the bottom of your screen as well. That's Dave. So we went around the community and we're handing out checks, and it was great. So we really loved the ability to give back to our community in that way and during this really difficult time. And we really put an emphasis on those businesses that were impacted from just the lack of hikers that were coming through the towns. That is in Unicoi County, their economy is, the trail is a huge part of their economy. It's really the backbone of, those summer months, and a lot of the businesses see an uptick in sales during that time. And so we put an emphasis on those businesses that were doubly impacted by the fact that hikers were not coming through, but also just a lot of events and everything in the communities that were not happening. But I think we've come out better in the long run. We're able to support one another and build a sense of community. And I will let if the video works for Chloe, there is a video that I would like to show. It's 30 seconds, so it's not long, but it's a testimonial from Matt Moses, who's the owner of USA Raft, and he's right along the Appalachian Trail. A lot of hikers stop in to kind of, you know, stay there and eat there and hang out by the Nolichucky River. So he has a great story to share for you guys.
March 15th was the hardest day. It was just clear that we were no longer going to be able to keep folks employed while we, you know, saw this thing through. It's disheartening to look out from my house and see just emptiness. Once word got out about coronavirus, it was devastating to our business. Visit regionahead.com if you're a small business that would like help, or if you would like to help small businesses in our region.
Thank you, guys. We were able to award USA Raft with a check from our Region Ahead fund as well. So I'm just really proud of our organization and how we've pivoted and been able to bring a sense of community and togetherness through this difficult time. So thank you guys for letting me share that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kayla. That was great. And as a reminder, if anybody has any comments or any questions for Kayla, you can go ahead and put those in the chat. And while Cora, our next speaker, is speaking, she'll answer those. And just a quick reminder, if you're not already, please go ahead and use that mute button down in the lower left-hand corner, or if you're on your phone, you can use *6. All right, and without further ado, I'll introduce Cora Nagy. She's the Tourism and Marketing Director for Giles County here in Virginia.
Yes, hi, thanks everybody. Happy to be here with you all today to share a little bit about some of the activities and things that's been happening along the trail in Southwest Virginia here. The next slide, please. Just as a frame of reference, Giles County is located in Southwest Virginia. You can see it's pulled out there on the map. We're a rural community with a little over 16,000 residents. We have two Appalachian Trail communities, the communities of Narrows and Parisburg. And I specifically work for Giles County. I'm doing tourism development and marketing. And next slide. The reason that the AT is such a pivotal piece of what we do is outdoor recreation is certainly kind of what we're good at, what we have. We have over 65 miles of the Appalachian Trail, but this map you see on your screen is what we call our tourism asset map. I know it's a little difficult to see, but we have 37 miles of the New River. We have, again, the 65 plus miles of the Appalachian Trail, and all of these kind of dots and icons on the map are other attractions that are nature-based or outdoor recreation-based. And I'll also share a third of our county is U.S. Forest Service. So certainly that connection with nature and wilderness and trails is a big piece of what we do. Next slide, please. So specifically, I wanted to share a few things that we had done here in the last 6 months. This program specifically that I'll talk about first is called our Giles County Gift Card Program. And the gift card program was the sole mission of this was to stabilize income and cash flow for our small businesses in the community. And so what we did, we encouraged all lodging and dining partners throughout the county to participate. Customers purchased gift cards at $20 increments, but then local government added 50% of that value. So we added an additional $10, making that voucher worth $30. And you could buy as many increments of that voucher as you wanted. And that 50% increase, like I said, was subsidized by our local governments, the county, and then 2 of the towns. Next slide, please. So it happened very quickly, as the video shared just recently here. And then, as we all are well aware, things happened very fast in March, it seems. Still kind of seems that way. But within 3 days, we had partners, we had confirmation from funding sources, and I worked with our in-house design team to launch this gift card program. We didn't have anything like this in place beforehand, so it was definitely a quick turnaround. And while the link is there, it's no longer active. We've concluded the program, but it was a fast, quick thing that I think you'll see was a good benefit to our partners. Next slide, please. So just logistically how we did it, we used a plugin on our website, designed everything from scratch. Locally, we had our treasurer's office, finance office, and my office, the tourism office, that managed the whole program. And so in essence, customers would go to our website, pick the partners that they wanted to support, make their purchase. I finalized the transactions, and then our finance office every week or twice a week would send checks to these participating partners. So when we said it was an immediate cash stabilization activity, that was our whole goal. This was before any PPP information came out. This was before we had any local banks that were doing SBA type loans. So we mailed our first checks on the 26th of March to this program. Next slide, please. So in 15 weeks, the positive results were is we generated $153,540 for our participating partners. That breaks down to sales. So the customer purchased $102,000, and our local government addition was $51,000. We did have a total government allocation of $57,000, and the breakdown is there. We decided to pull the program a little before we reached that total allocation, because again, at that point, we now had the SBDCs and some of the other PPP things popping up that we were then directing our partners, small businesses, in those directions at that time. Next slide, please. This is just a layout of all of the participating partners. And so we sold a total of 5,118 vouchers in 15 weeks. You might also remember I said I completed all of those transactions. So I checked off 5,118 vouchers for partners. And then we were able to distribute those really by July 8th. We had all of these monies and these funds and vouchers to customers and partners. And this, I wanted to show this too, because this wasn't just a government program. The customers and the people that loved these businesses and had interacted with them, they were the ones making that purchase for that business. Next slide. So two of our hostels were partners, and they also used this program to promote not only what they were doing during this time, but also then how their patrons could support them. And some of on the order form, customers could write in little notes. And so typically for our AT related businesses, they would share their trail name, and we hiked, 2014. And so hope this helps out. So that was a really neat, indirect, but also tangible benefit to see that support coming back for our businesses. Next slide. Another ongoing project that we had to pivot with as well, and we had to postpone, we did a small business plan competition that we called Jumpstart Giles. And I wanted to specifically mention this one. Many of these people interact with the AT community just because we are a small area. So hikers and trail workers interact with many of our small businesses. But the HB Adventures gentleman there, top second over, his business, we started this process in January 28th of this year. His entire business is based around concierge service to hikers, shuttle service, and then also other experiences that hikers might enjoy when they visit the area. So taking them on rafting trips, floating trips, in addition to all of their supplies and needs that they might have while out on the trail. And so he ended up winning $4,000 in July to help continue to launch that business, which was great. We ended up giving out $40,000 to small businesses in July. And the last thing that I'll just quickly share that we're really looking forward to, it was also postponed, but will have a real impact for our AT community connections and infrastructure. We are recipients of the Recreation Economies for Rural Communities grant, and through the EPA and other partners. And that will be taking place in October. And so this network and these relationships that we've kind of solidified over the last couple of months through these particular programs will just help as we move forward and figure out how best we can position ourselves and prepare our communities to welcome hikers, to welcome guests, and additional small and medium-sized.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cora. So just a quick reminder, if you have any questions for Cora or comments, feel free to pop those right into the chat and she'll be looking for them. And up next, moving north on the trail from Southwest Virginia to Central Virginia, we've got Elizabeth Toole from the Devil's Backbone Brewing Company. She's the Corporate and Social Responsibility Manager. Take it away, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth from Devil's Backbone Brewery. And if you continue along the AT from Giles County northwards and you go about, I'm not sure how far, we're probably, I don't know, maybe 100 or so miles apart from each other. But anyways, you reach mile 842, that's where you'll find approximately Devil's Backbone. So we can move on to the next slide, please, Catherine. So for folks who may not be familiar with our company, we were founded in 2008 at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains in a beautiful, beautiful county called Nelson County, Virginia. It's about 45 minutes outside of Charlottesville, which is where I live. We call that property base camp. So you can see a picture here on the left. And our tagline, which I think is pretty apt for that location, is pretty much the music, food, camping, and beer wonderland of Virginia. So it's a really beautiful spot. It has a brew pub there, and we've kind of grown it every year in our 12 years that we've been here in Virginia. So we also opened a production facility over the mountain in Lexington, Virginia, which we call Outpost. That's a 120 barrel system, so that's a much bigger system. In base camp, we still have a restaurant, a distillery as of recently, as well as an 8.5 barrel system, so much smaller production where we can do some one-off batches and special draft only releases. I put a couple of pictures up here of some of our flagship beers that you all may have seen in store or had a chance to taste. Our Vienna Lager is our flagship. That is a large portion of our sales, and you can find Vienna Lager as well as Gold Leaf and 8 Point in about 14 states across the East Coast. So I know there are folks on here from Florida. We're not quite in Florida yet, but we should be across all the other states that you guys are here. So one thing I will mention too is at base camp, because we are so close to the Appalachian Trail, we've really developed an organic relationship with the thru hikers and the AT community. So, you know, over the years after we first launched, we would see thru hikers kind of trickle down and hang out at our brew pub and have a beer and a meal, which I can imagine is a really nice break after several days on the trail. And we loved that. We loved having them on our property, and we loved hearing their stories. And so over the years, we've really expanded our offerings to those thru hikers at that location specifically, including a campground that is specifically for thru hikers that we offer for free. We just recently built a bathhouse, which is very nice with showers and bathrooms. And then we also have free shuttles to and from the AT and swag, as well as a $5 breakfast for the thru hikers. It's a massive, massive plate of food. With COVID-19, we've unfortunately had to put a lot of those services on hold just because of staffing constraints and just the nature of COVID-19 being the way it is. But it is a suite of services that we really hope to pick back up as soon as we're able to. So Catherine, you can move on to the next slide, please. So COVID-19 really presented a really unique situation for us. It is, you know, and a couple of pieces I wanted to highlight today are a couple of things we've done internally among our own team. We have about 200 to 250 employees within our company, and also with the community as well. I will really start with workplace safety, which is up here. You know, we have been an essential business. We supply grocery stores here in Virginia, so we've been able to brew consistently during all the closures, which we're really grateful for. And so safety for our employees was our top priority. So we've implemented a lot of new policies and procedures for our workplace to make sure that our staff are as safe as possible. As you can see here in the pictures, we've used a lot of tape and visual cues to make sure folks are well spaced apart. And we do temperature checks for all staff daily. Anytime I go into the office, I have to take my temperature, and we have hand sanitizer everywhere. So making sure that our staff are safe, again, our top priority. The second piece too, the other two sort of columns here, is we really recognized that there was a significant need growing within our community. Both Base Camp and Outpost, Devil's Backbone's two locations, are in very rural communities. Food insecurity is already an issue for both of those areas. So we've partnered with our local food pantries for several years. And we recognized that that need was only going to grow exponentially during this time. So we created a program called the Give Backpack, which is essentially a boxed meal to feed a family of 4 that we had available for folks within our community for free. So folks could call in, place an order for a box, and come pick it up, no questions asked. So we had 189 of those redeemed. Each box served a family of 4. So well over 750 meals that we were able to give back and support or provide to community members in need. And we also had a donation feature. So Devil's Backbone covered the cost, a big chunk of those meals to begin with. And then we invited our consumers to also purchase a meal to kind of pay it forward in a sense. So every meal they purchased would had a bank of meals essentially that would then be redeemed by folks in need. And our commitment has been that any additional revenue we bring in from the purchase of those meals that has not been redeemed will be donated to our local food pantry. And on the right-hand side, we also really wanted to give back and support our community partners as best we could in a safe way. So I'm really proud of our employees that collectively we volunteered over 230 hours in the community since March 1st. And that's a picture of my colleague Beth and our local food pantry in Lexington boxing up some food boxes for their clients. They're actually using some obsolete packaging from Devil's Backbone. So it's really great use of some of our old materials. So we can move on to the next slide, please. And 2 last pieces I will reference in terms of COVID-19 response. The first piece is I'll really highlight our hospitality experience here. So if you all have visited our base camp property, it's an absolutely beautiful piece of property. And one of the benefits of that area is that it is on a very large sort of plot of land, and the outdoor view is great. So we realized once restaurants were able to safely reopen that we could really offer a unique kind of getaway experience that I think folks were craving now more than ever. And so I'm really, really proud of our hospitality team for completely recreating our operations, which if those of you who've worked in restaurant service or hospitality operations, making changes can be quite difficult, but our team did this incredibly seamlessly. So as you can see, we've spaced our picnic tables very far apart. We have a reservation only system. So if you want to come in and get a meal, you can pick it up curbside, or you can make a reservation, come sit at a table and just order from a QR code right there at your table. And our staff wear gloves and masks the whole time. We have visual cues on the ground. The sticker here is a sticker. It says cheers from 6 feet apart. If folks need to use the restroom, we have this visual cues on the floor to help, on the ground rather, to help them stay separated and wait in line in a socially distant place. So we've had a lot of healthcare professionals come out and have lunch with us and confirm how pleased they are with the setup. So again, a huge kudos to our staff for implementing that. And then the last piece I'll really mention before I wrap here is hand sanitizer. So this has been a project that's been incredibly meaningful for us to participate in at this time. So as you all, as I mentioned before, we have a distillery at our Nestle County location. So we learned that we were able to adjust the recipe in a sense with some of the ethanol we had at the facility to actually make hand sanitizer. And so we did that and we packaged it. And we actually donated it to a lot of local healthcare providers, as well as staff. So marketing and sales staff and other, really any production, hospitality staff who were interested, we were able to provide some to them too. Also to our restaurants. So a big piece of the overall, partnership base within craft beer is the great, restaurants we work with across our area. So as they were reopening their own doors, we would deliver some hand sanitizer to them as well. So we feel really proud of that project. And it's been a great way for us to kind of use an asset that we already have as part of our operations to benefit the public good. So if you all have any other questions, feel free to include them in the chat box. But again, thanks to the ATC for the opportunity to be here. It's been really meaningful to be part of this discussion. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth. So you might be tired of hearing me say this by now, but just as a reminder, if anybody has any questions for Elizabeth, you can put them in the chat and she'll be looking to reply. I love that you made me go look up in my GutHook app how far it is from Harrisburg to Nelson County.
I think I was way off.
Oh no, it's okay. It's about 200 miles. So then I just checked, and now we're jumping way ahead 607 miles from Nelson County up to the Harlem Valley up in New York, at right around mile 1450. So we have Alana Burns here from the Harlem Valley Homestead. She's the Director of Education and Outreach. Take it away, Alana.
All right, hello everyone, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. Like she said, my name's Alana Burns, and I manage community outreach and education here for Harlem Valley Homestead. Just personally, the AT is such a huge anchor for me in this community. When I'm not working, I'm usually out on the trail, so it's something that both myself and our team members just love to engage with. Our farm is in Wingdale, New York, and we're a working farm that provides education and land-based experiences. We provide food for our community through local farmers markets and direct from our farm stand. And in the future, we're growing our agricultural production to be able to support our mission to connect guests with educational experiences around living in connection with land. So our big picture vision is that guests will come and stay for multi-day workshops based around the work of the farm, share meals with ingredients that are grown here, and enjoy just the spectacular beauty of the Harlem Valley and participate in the myriad recreational opportunities that are in this valley. And to support this vision, we're in the process of increasing our capacity to host more people by creating sustainable and beautiful hospitality experience through farm stay facilities where more people can come and experience this place. Next slide, please. What's really special about this region, amongst so many other things, is that in addition to the hyper local focus in our rural community, we really see ourselves part of a regional community. We are right off of the Metro North commuter line, which is a huge asset to increase public access to this region and to the trail. There's even a stop just a few stops away from our stop that gets right off on the Appalachian Trail. And we really see the trail as the backbone that helps support such a rich diversity within the region, and so much why people love living and working here. Next slide, please. So a big part of what we do here as we're growing is host workshops, events, and community activities. And we've hosted a variety of different activities with our Harlem Valley Appalachian Trail community, both on site and in the community. This is a picture here from last year where we hosted National Public Lands Day. And we had a variety of different organizations regionally come and help basically restore and work on different trail projects along our stretch of the Appalachian Trail. So we feel really grateful for those community partnerships that allow us to get out in the community and both foster new connections and really put that love back into the trail that loves us so much. Let's see. So, unfortunately, one of the big, and we'll go to the next slide, please. One of the hugest impacts of COVID-19 on our organization has been we can't really host people right now. And that's been, a huge pivot for us in thinking about how we reach out to the community and how we still foster that sense of connection and partnership that's so important to our mission. So we've really been focusing most of our attention now back to the farm, and we're an essential business, so we've shifted our farm stand completely to online ordering, contactless, so people can come, in the safety of their own car and come pick up fresh food direct from us, multiple days a week. So one of the big things that we've seen as a result of COVID, which was, we've always known has been a priority in this community, but we've really seen it thrive in a pretty substantial way, is how many people are reevaluating their food supply, looking to local sources and seeking education about how to grow food on their own land, which is really stewarding a lot of conversations and reflections on resilience, both as individuals and as part of a community. We saw, we were really fortunate to see a huge interest in local products, both from our farm and neighboring farms. And that was, despite such challenging and confusing times, the spirit of coming together around food and supporting local businesses and nourishing ourselves was something that really sort of came out of the ashes of a really challenging and confusing time. Another, next slide, please. Another aspect that has also been challenging and has caused us to really think more deeply about how we engage with these issues in our community has been the exposure of just how inequities in our food system are hitting low-income members of our community in such a disproportionately impactful way. And this is something that, we've really tried to step up and respond to. We have partnered with other local farms to donate fresh produce to local food pantries. We went through the process of becoming certified to welcome SNAP benefits for all of our farm products. And we also, through the generosity of a series of neighbors, were able to set up a program where we can offer discounts to any community members who feel like they need support, no questions asked, to help make our farm products more accessible for more members of our community. And another real interesting part about this is that it's really actually exposed a lot more questions than it has answers, and so it's really provided a very rich and challenging path of inquiry for us to really understand how we make the most profound impact. It hasn't necessarily been an easy road to understand what the needs are in the community and how we can best serve, and COVID has certainly been an example of how it's even more difficult in this time, not being able to rely on our usual methods of connection and outreach to really understand, what the needs are and really make those personal contacts with our community members. So, this is something that, we're continuing to reflect and to take tangible steps to work on. And we only see this continuing to grow and become enriched as we continue to go through this process. Next slide, please. So, and like I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest lessons learned has just been, it's something that we felt already, but we've really been so blessed to see firsthand emerge as a result of COVID, is just the support and enthusiasm for community during this challenging time. And, one thing that, I feel like is so, representative of the trail is that, we really can think about ourselves as connected, not just as individuals, but and not just within this community, but as a broader community, that we have a ripple effect on our relationships with ourselves and one another. And I feel like the Appalachian Trail is sort of a perfect metaphor for what we've been learning as a result of the challenges of COVID. So, we'd love for you to connect with us. I'll put my email in the chat box. If you have any questions or want to learn more about what we do, feel free to contact me or sign up for our email list. We would love to share information about our farming practices and food and community. So if you're interested in those things, feel free to reach out, and we'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alana. I just have to give a big round of applause to all four of you because you did a great job and also stayed right on time. So we do have a little time here for a question and answer session. We can, I think since we've got about 18 minutes left before we hit an hour, if anybody wants to unmute yourself and ask a question out loud, you can, or you can go ahead and type it in the chat and we'll call them out. And I just want to thank you guys so much because I loved, as we were putting this together, just seeing the thread of connection between, four very different organizations. Cora and Kayla are, representing, well, Kayla's, you're both, regional focused, and you're looking for ways to support multiple businesses and the whole community. And then we've got two stories from businesses, a larger, business and a more locally focused one, with Devil's Backbone and Harlem Valley Homestead. But there's just so many connections running between it of how you've been, thinking through creative solutions and how to help the most vulnerable and how to, just act quickly. And I'm just so impressed. So let me open up the floor. Who's got a question or a comment?
Joe put in a question: to what extent are your efforts likely to be focused on recreation opportunities for everyone versus hikers? and that was going to all speakers. And I will just communicate that I've heard from Kayla that she was booted. So I'm going to capture what questions for Kayla and hope that she can get reconnected.
This is Cora. I responded back to Joe there in the chat box, but my response was, I'm certainly focused in a big picture way towards recreational users, and then certainly the hikers, whether they're AT hikers or other trail system hikers that we have in the community, they're a priority. But I'm probably broader focused on recreation as opposed to just hikers.
And I can chime in as well. I would say we're a little bit of all of the above. I think as a hospitality location, we like to cater to really anyone who wants to come in and enjoy the services that we provide. We do have a campground and an RV site at our property and base camp. So we found that's been a really nice getaway, especially during COVID-19 for folks just wanting a break or recreational hikers. I think the through hiker perks will continue to be a core part of what we offer at base camp, even though we've had to put some of those on hold for now. So we will, I think, always have something that's closely tied with the through hiking community as well.
Yeah, I'll go. I would say that, you know, for our focus here, we really are intending to connect guests to an opportunity of diverse recreational opportunities. And we have always envisioned having relationship with hikers from the trail, though we're not really at the stage yet where we have facilities where we can welcome people in that way. So that's really for us like an aspirational goal to like figure out how those communities might come together. But big picture, you know, something that we feel is really important is to, you know, really create connections, not just at this farm in this place, but with the broader Harlem Valley. And there are so many different ways to engage with natural resources and then, you know, beautiful spaces and rivers here. So we really see like our participation as both like sort of connecting to like a broader web of opportunities that people can connect to.
Okay, and it looks like I've got another question from Stancy in the chat box. I think this question to any of the presenters, how are you all engaging the Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities?
Catherine, I can start off on that one. So I think this is such an important question, and I'm so glad it was raised here. We've been having a lot of conversations internally here within Devil's Backbone to cover this topic and, you know, open our doors as widely as possible, both for our staff, but also for our hospitality experience as well. And I think one way to address this question from Devil's Backbone is kind of twofold. I would say, first of all, we are working internally with our management to develop a comprehensive diversity and inclusion strategy for our brewery that includes training, education, and recruitment, so that we are doing everything we possibly can internally as a business to recruit and hire as diverse a pool as we possibly can, and to also make sure that when we're speaking with the consumer that we're inviting consumers of all backgrounds and into our conversation with us. So that's an effort that we're developing with very close coordination among our senior leadership here at Devil's Backbone. We are also participating in a really exciting project right now. There's a brewery in Texas that actually has put out a sort of an all call for breweries across the world to brew a beer in support of racial justice locally within their communities. It's a special recipe, and the project is called Black is Beautiful, and we're really excited to partner with well over 1,000 breweries globally to brew this special recipe of a beer that will be on tap. And the call to action for this project is that every brewery brew the recipe and donate every cent that comes in for revenue of purchasing that beer to a local nonprofit that's fighting racial injustices within their own community. And so we're really excited to be a part of that project. I would really encourage you all to look up the name of the project. Is called Black is Beautiful. You can just Google that and see all the breweries participating. Our beer should be released early September for draft only at both of our locations. So if y'all are in the area, please swing by and and give it a try. And we're donating every cent that we raise to a Virginia nonprofit called the Legal Aid Justice Center, which is a really terrific organization. So thank you so much for that question. I think it's a really important one to talk about.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in my role with local government and small business development, we certainly have been made aware that there was never a focus on what obstacles could be in place for our small business and entrepreneurs. And so we are in the process, and the Jumpstart program was that first step in connecting resources and entrepreneurs together. And while that's not specifically focused on the communities you mentioned, it's our attempt to be made aware of what those obstacles are for our small business owners to enter the marketplace in our rural community.
So I'll go. So we've been having a lot of conversations internally as a team about how we both as individuals and organizationally relate to all of the massively important issues that have been coming up recently with all of the protests and Black Lives Matter. And one of the big pieces that we're going through right now is we are getting together as a working group, and we actually just had our first meeting yesterday, where we have basically solicited our entire team for feedback about sort of where we are, where we want to go, and what we feel like we're hearing is important for us to be addressing as a team and as an organization. One of the big pieces which we are in the process of starting to sort of wrap our heads around, but we know will be a longer term process for us, is going through an organizational anti-racist audit. So really working with local organizations that do anti-racist training, and ideally specifically in agricultural operations such as ours, to really look at our practices and both on all the way down to the farm to human resources, and really understand what the most impactful adjustments that we can be making. So that's a process that we're actively going through right now, and again, sort of more questions than answers, but we felt really grateful to be in a listening position where we're getting a lot of really important and interesting feedback right now on how we can adjust. As an organization, we've also made a public statement with our goal of becoming an anti-racist organization, and really doing that to encourage other local businesses to speak up in support of Black, Indigenous, and people of color in our community and sort of writ large. And this has really sparked a lot of interesting conversations locally. And as we've been one of a large group of people that has actually started to come together and form an organization called Speak Up Pauling in Dover. That is a community organizing group that is basically getting together to workshop initiatives on how we can really make tangible change in our community. So, this is both a question of organizationally, what do we do? And as individuals, what do we do? And, there's areas where there's overlap and there's areas where that's separate. But, we feel one of the core parts of our mission is that we are grounded in place, and we're here to connect people to place and the people of that place. We are connected to the issues that are both supporting everyone and harming certain members of our community. So, we are really just stepping up to try and figure out ways in which we can tangibly support, areas that might not even be within our organizational scope. Education reform is a huge topic that's going on right now. There's been a lot of conversation about, how our local schools really need to step up and be implementing better educational procedures and audits for their teachers and their staff and faculty. And personally, individually, that's been something that I've been really interested in and working to support. So there's a lot to say on it, and I know we still have only a little time. So yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Hey, Alana, could you talk briefly about supporting a group and being part of a group that's engaging the Pauling Farmers Market around Black Lives Matter and BIPOC?
Definitely.
Local young people who have come together to do this?
Definitely. So, so sort of the precursor, and not the reason why this group started, but was sort of one of the various motions that sort of contributed to sort of a big momentum in this area was, you know, we had a local protest. We had local protests in both Pawling and Dover, and we saw incredible turnouts of at least 200 people for both events, which we were really surprised because we're in a small rural community, and you know, I think that there was a lot of skepticism about how many people would turn up for something like that, but we had begun to see an amazing support for these, you know, around these issues. So, you know, as part of our commitment to be an anti-racist organization, just like a very small movement that we felt like we could do is, you know, have a sign at our local farmers market that was in support of Black Lives Matter. And, you know, for a variety of reasons, you know, the board of the market did not permit that signage to be put up. And so this, you know, led to a big process on their part to reevaluate what kind of organization as a board they were and what they stood for. And that, you know, so the questions of like how as a community do we like come together to like support these initiatives, especially in an area where, you know, food is not neutral. There's so many inequities in the food system, and it's something that is really important for there to be more awareness around. So sort of from a lot of these different actions, you know, like Stancy said, groups of young people in the community have come together to form this group to help, you know, basically put together a structure of demands on local organizations like local schools and the farmers market and businesses to help support the businesses that are willing to sort of step forward and say, you know, we support Black Lives Matter and we support, you know, working towards equity on these issues. I hope that answered your question, Stancy.
I just want to thank you for doing that.
That's awesome. And I you know, I kind of want to call out a comment that I think Eric made in the chat that, you know, your connections with the trail at the Harlem Valley Homestead are so in line with Benton MacKay's original vision for the Appalachian Trail, which was, you know, a series of communities along the trail that he never envisioned the trail as something you would hike in to end. It was a place to escape, you know, increasingly urbanized society and connect with the land in different ways that could include, you know, working on a farm locally and connecting with the land by hiking from one, you know, place to another. And so I love that throughout this COVID-19 crisis, we've all been isolated in our homes and not connecting in the ways that we normally do, but we're finding all new ways to connect, and that include, and then that has, I think, borne a lot of fruit with the Black Lives Matter and the social justice movements as well, that people are, you know, even though we're isolated, we're also connecting in ways that aren't always comfortable, but are really, I don't know, it's a really interesting time. And it's been great to see how communities and organizations are wrapping all of that together. Yeah. Well, we've got just a couple minutes left. Does anybody have any final thoughts or questions for our wonderful speakers? Okay, well, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Nancy?
Can I just ask a question of Kayla and Cora? What were your paths to the positions that you have now?
I don't think Kayla was able to get back on yet. I don't see her. My background, so I grew up really about 40 minutes from Harper's Ferry in a town called Strasburg on a family farm. And I managed a historic house museum for years and have a master's degree from Virginia Tech in community development and adult education. So my background of hospitality and managing that farm museum, plus I did some work in youth education when they were looking to create a tourism office. Some of my community outreach pieces coupled with small business development pieces fit really well with what they were looking for. So I've been in this role. They created it, the Department of Tourism, 5 years ago.
Great. And Elizabeth,
Kayla,
I met you. I met you a while ago at one of the ATC galas, conversation over your beer, naturally. How did you move into the corporate and social responsibility area?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So I actually have a nonprofit background. I worked in international education out of undergraduate in DC, and decided to go to business school to really develop my more kind of technical skill set. And it was really in business school where I got interested in business in general, and specifically how businesses give back and be responsible stewards of the communities where they operate. And so I kind of became interested in this mesh of business and corporate sustainability, and that's what led me to my role here. So I happen to really like good craft beer too, so it was kind of the perfect marriage.
And I'll just say that for Kayla, was a journalist and then worked as a tourism director before going into this more regional role. And I'll happily plug the fact that she was in our Next Gen Advisory Council as well, and really helped to form the original vision and charter within that for ATC. So she's served a lot of really important roles for Eastern Tennessee and her growth there, and pretty exciting model where she is now. And I also will just say thank you so much to both the staff for helping put this together, Chloe and Catherine. This is wonderful. And to all of the speakers, you provided so many great examples and inspiring pivots in the time that we are. And I really appreciate all of the partners and volunteers that we have connected in this AT community network. Thanks for all that you do, and keep on letting us know what kinds of ongoing conversations we can have together. Until next.
Let me just say, because I know Alana so well, I neglected to ask her career path, but I think
there you go.
Everybody, Alana, if you would.
So I've had a rich and diverse background, but my original focus was actually in the fine arts, and I was doing the fine arts life in the city for some time until I came to the Harlem Valley for the first time, and got my hands in the dirt and realized that this was something I really needed in my life. So over the course of a year, I kept coming back up and found my way up to living in the Harlem Valley and working for the Harlem Valley Homestead. And sort of as my connection to the land grew, really my interest in the natural communities, the human communities, sort of came together, and so helped support and inform the role that I have today. So in addition to the work that I do with the human community, I'm also an avid forager, and I do a lot of education around wild plants and mushrooms. So it's kind of a passion of mine. So those are some of the areas that I have my fingers in.
Awesome. Great time of year to be foraging. Well, all right. Well, thanks again, everybody. We'll go ahead and wrap this call up, but really enjoyed the conversation, and have a wonderful day.